Hey ladies and guys, hey, in this video I have two of these Champion generators or inverters. They're 2000 watt inverters. They're basically the equivalent to the Honda EU2200 that I just tuned up and repaired yesterday. So these, I have two matching ones. I numbered them, number one and number two. I bought these to power my camper. You can either run them individually as 2000 watt inverters, or I actually have somewhere a connection device that pairs these two together, and they're stackable. And one of them last season, I was having real bad problems starting. The other one started no problem. I bought these used, obviously on Marketplace, and the guy had them in his shed. I just threw fuel in them, fired them both up. They both ran the first time I fired them up, and then I just stuck the other one in the shed, and I kept one with me for a job site trailer or job site generator. And so the one in the shed, I didn't have them numbered at the time. The one in the shed didn't work. The one that I did have with me that I use on job sites worked good, but it was really hard to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these and try to tune them both up. It's winter time. I'd like to have all my generators up and running before spring. That way, if I need them for camping or if I need them for job site, I have them. Or natural disaster like a hurricane comes through and knocks out power, or my family or friend needs a generator, I have them up and running. So this video is going to be I've never taken one of these apart at all. I don't even know how to get access to any of the components in here. So I'm gonna spend some time looking it looks like on the back side there's an access panel now that I'm looking at it. So I'm gonna spend some time looking at how to access the innards of this, and we'll drain the fuel, check the fuel, put new fuel in, clean the carburetors if needed, check the spark plug, and probably change the oil, because I don't know when that guy changed the oil last. Yeah, so other than that, there's a Champion 2000 watt inverter, as you see. I don't see the model number anywhere. It's a model 73538i. And what I will do is I'll take a picture of this plate before I take it off, and or I'll put the video on it so you can actually see what model it is. And we're gonna see how these things work and try to get them both up and running so they're very reliable. Before I get started taking them apart, I'm actually going to show you how they stack, and I'm going to try to start both of them. So that way I know if at least one starts before I take it apart. Hopefully they both start, but we'll see. I know one of them didn't start last year. But I'm going to stack them on the ground. I'll show you how they stack, and then we'll dive into them once I try to get them up and running. All right? Let's get started here. That one's full. That one's full. I'm going to open up the vent on the gas caps. Turn that on, pull the choke out, engine off, engine on. Here's the pull cord. All right, let's try this one. we know number one at least starts. So we're gonna start with number two. See what we're gonna take this one apart and see what we can figure out on it. So here's a run around on the machine. This is the back side. Here's a model information. And I think this is going to be the access panel. I'm 90% positive because it's nice and easy accessible. And then here's the front. So you have the engine on, engine off. That's your kill switch. Eco mode. So if you put it in economy up here, it'll idle when there's no demand. And when there's demand, it automatically brings the throttle up to produce the voltage needed. That would be a high steady idle basically. Here's your fuel shut off. That's just a physical fuel valve. Unlike the Honda has this and this all in one, but this is separated. It's kind of loose, so we'll have to check that out. Here's your choke. Choke's on, choke's off. Your pull cord, and here's your outlet. And this is right here. This is when you run them in parallel. Like I was saying, you could connect this one to that one, and instead of having 110, 115, or 120 volt outlet, it'll convert it to 240. So take the two of them basically and leg them together. Anyways, all right, so this is the CPE Power Sport, which is a 2000-watt inverter. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on the back side. We're gonna take that panel off and see what's in there. Once again, just like the other generator I worked on yesterday, this is spotless. Here's a spark plug right there. So that's your spark plug access port is right here. So you can get your socket down in there. Your oil is right here. Oil's full. It's hard to get my fingers in there to get that tight. I just wanted to make sure it was tight. Looks like that's going to be the air filter. And it looks like the carburetor is behind here. Fuel tank is up on top. Let's see if there's a fuel filter. It's over there. See, do I have access on this side? Here's a fuel drain. Let's see what the fuel looks like that's in the carburetor right now. We're gonna open this drain up. I got the cover off. Let me show you what I'm looking at in here before I start messing around. Over here is your fuel fill. I mean your oil, I'm sorry. Here's your oil. That's gonna be your air cleaner box right there. And then if you look all the way in there, let me zoom you in. That's your fuel valve right there. And then it looks like there might be a sediment collector on the bottom of it. There you go, follow this hose right there. And then your carburetor is gonna be tucked in right there behind this plastic piece. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this screw up here, and that's gonna let fuel come out of here. And we're gonna see the condition of that fuel before I start taking apart the carburetor. Gotta turn on the fuel. I forgot to turn the fuel on. Okay, fuel valve's on. And I'm not getting any fuel. And I know the tank is full. So more than likely, that needle the float in here is stuck. So we're gonna tap it. Still nothing. All right, so it's not starting because it's not getting fuel. So that means that carburetor's all gummed up probably, or at least that needle's stuck. Here's the fuel line. So we're gonna have to start dismantling some of this stuff to get it out. Definitely not as easy as a Honda to work on. Once again, everything is super clean. This is definitely harder to work on than the Honda. I already dropped my socket in there and the nut. All right, let me get a magnet. So when I take things apart, I pay attention to gaskets, and the gasket for the air cleaner air box stayed on the air box. Okay, so carburetor is loose. It's going to have that wire here for just like the Honda, and it has a throttle cable right here. Oh, that's the choke. I'm sorry. The choke rod right there. So the carburetor is loose. Now, this is a choke cable. So when I go on this side and I pull the choke knob right there. See, it's just a physical connection. It's just operating a choke. So what I have to do is take this cable out of the carburetor because I got to slide the carburetor out. Oh, they do not make this easy. Can't take it off because the gas tank is in the way. So the gas tank is hitting up here. So you can't take this out without dismantling an entire unit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna shut the fuel off. All right, and now I'm just gonna take this bowl off. So in theory, this should be full of fuel. Let me get a rag for down there. Bone dry. So we're not getting fuel. If you're not familiar with the way a carburetor works, here's your carburetor, obviously this whole thing, and that bowl I took off is underneath here. This is called your float, and it's full of air. So when the fuel bowl is full of fuel, it floats, and it shuts off the needle up there. It pushes the needle up, and it shuts off your fuel. When your engine sucks fuel up this port right here and the fuel level comes down, your float drops. When it drops, it opens up a valve called your needle in your seat in there. How it's held on is just by this little pin right there, and that pin just slides out and then this will fall down. So I'm going to do that, and obviously we should be getting fuel right now because there's no bowl. So it should be coming out. Let me open a fuel valve on the front just to make sure. Maybe I freed it up. Yeah, see, I'm not getting any fuel. And that the fuel, and being that this is the fuel tank up here, the fuel should be gravity feeding down to here automatically. So right now it should be getting fuel. Odds are that that needle in back there is stuck closed. So what I have to do is pull that out and pull that little pin out right there. Let's see if you can see that better. Pull that little pin out, and then this will come down with the needle. It's very hard for you to see me doing that, so that's what I'm showing you now. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus up in there. Not really. All right, there you go. You can see that little spot right there that's out of focus, that little metal clip. Right back there is your needle, and it's not moving when I move the float up and down. No, it is moving. All right, so the needle's not stuck. So maybe the fuel line's clogged. We'll see. So the fuel line is over here. So maybe we'll take the fuel line off and see what's up with that first. I'm gonna pull that needle out, the floating needle. All right, that's that pin, the roll pin that holds it in. And there's the needle. Not too bad, but there's some tarnish on it. Let me show it to you. So that's that needle I was telling you about, that little pinpoint. You see that black line on it? So that's probably where it was stuck. So I'm gonna spray that off with carb cleaner. Let's see, try to get it in focus for you. Right there. That's the needle. These are really hard to put back in upside down when the carburetor's still in it, because it goes upside down. It goes just like this. So that's why I was trying to get the carburetor off, but we'll get it. So we'll clean this. We'll get it back together though. Okay, that's good. Here's the float, nice and clean. I'm gonna try and get that fuel line off. I'm gonna take it off the bottom of the tank. So I got the clip off, but now the hose has been on there so long it's stuck. So I'm gonna just take this and twist the hose a little bit. There we go. Had to break the bond where it was stuck on. Yep, come right off now. So here's your fuel, the fuel line. And I should be able to blow through this, but I'm not gonna blow, I don't want moisture in it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray some carburetor cleaner in here, and it should just come right at the bottom there. Okay, so see the fuel's coming out, or the carburetor cleaner? So that means the problem is not in the carburetor. That the carburetor's clean, float was working, the bowl was clean. That means the problem is over at the fuel line. So there's something either in the tank clogged or back there on the fuel shutoff. Now I'm sure my fat head was in the way that entire time, but here's the fuel line I took off, and I gotta get some light in here. Boy, what a difference working on a Honda and this thing. All right, so here's your fuel line right there. And you see this here is a sediment bowl. And this is your fuel valve also, right there. So on the back side of that, on the other side of that is your on-off valve. So when I open this, this fuel should gravity flow out that. So let's try it. And that's open. And there's no fuel. And to prove that I have fuel in here, it's full. So I have fuel, but I'm not getting fuel. That should be pouring out right now because that valve's wide open. So I'm gonna shut the valve off again, and I'm gonna take apart the bottom of that sediment filter. Oh, it was off. Oh, wait. Yeah, see, it's still. Okay. So I'm gonna turn it back off. And then I'm gonna reach in there and take that bowl off right there with a box wrench. With this design, I can't really show you what I'm doing in there. So that's why I'm stopping to show you and then sticking my hands back in the way to try to get it done. Let's see if it's a 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter square. So righty tighty, lefty loosey. So that would be on, so I gotta come this way with it. Horrible design. Yeah, see, I have to take all the legs off to get access to behind this, I think. Well, let's see what happens if I just take that off. It's a maintenance thing, is to check that sediment filter. So you would think they'd make it easy accessible, but they haven't. So that screw, I think I figured out what's wrong with it, guys. This is cracked. So if that was cracked, right here, that wasn't turning the valve. Let me check the other side, make sure we're not dumping fuel all over the place in there. We're gonna hold off 1 minute. I'm gonna tighten that bowl back up so it doesn't leak. And then I'm gonna take this off the other one. See, the whole thing is cracked. So I don't think it was turning the valve. This is the fun part. This is how you learn. So I'm gonna tighten that bowl back up, the sediment bowl. I don't want fuel dumped in here if I don't need it. Well, you know what? We're already loose. Let's just take it off and clean it. Everything else is clean, so this should be pretty clean. Spotless and empty. So that fuel valve isn't even working. There's nothing wrong with the carburetor. Completely dry and clean. All right, let's put this back in there. And if you see, it's a 4-sided 10 millimeter. You can't use an 8-sided 6 or 12 point socket on it. You need a 4-sided socket or a 8-sided socket to do the square bolts. That's why I'm using open end. Okay, snug, not tight. It's only aluminum. I'm gonna put the fuel, no, I'm gonna leave the fuel line off. I'm gonna take the rag though and cover all the electronics. So now I'm gonna stick this back on that fuel valve. So that way I'm not draining fuel all out on the electrical circuit board right there. I had to have the fuel come out here. Got to make sure when you put these on that these clips are accessible. That's what was wrong with that one. So let me go get the fuel valve, the on-off valve, off of the other machine. So let me get the fuel valve, the plastic piece, off that machine there. Yeah, see that one's nice and tight? Well, still, no, it's kind of loose. But let's see. Okay. And you can see it's a square. So it only goes on one way. It has a rounded corner and a 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree, and a rounded corner. So it only goes on one way. But this one is actually broken here and there, which is fixable as long as we caught it now. But let's see if that's the problem. I'm gonna stick this one on here. And see if it works. Okay, so that fuel valve is on, the plastic's put on. Let's open it up. All right, so here's the fuel line. The fuel should come out of that. When I open this valve up, here we go. There it is. So that was a problem. Well, you know what that means. All of that means is we need to fix this. So before I even go any farther, I don't like having two machines apart. So I'm gonna go put this right back on this other machine, and then I'll come right back and put the whole carburetor back together. We got all that to do, put the cover back on, the air box on, and then we're gonna try to fix this. So I took off 3 silver bolts. 2 of them were this size and 1 of them was a little bit shorter. The shorter one goes on the air box on that side into the block. That one goes into the block in the middle of the air box. This one's gonna hold the air filter on right here. But before I tighten that, I wanna tighten this top one up. So this hose goes through here and hangs out like that, as far as I can tell. Yeah, that's the only holes. Hold this down there. Yep. So that would be your drain. For draining the carburetor right there. All right, let's, that's done, that's done, that's done. Okay, so now we have to figure out how to fix this. Here's the broken fuel valve, the shutoff knob. If you notice, try to get the focus here a little bit. It's cracked here and cracked here. And the crack goes quite a ways down on both. So when it's turning, when you go to turn this, it's just splitting that open. So what we have to do is clean this out really good and maybe throw some super glue down in there. I have a plastic repair kit, but I think super glue is going to be better. So I'm gonna see, I can open this up. So I'm gonna spray some some carb cleaner down in here. See, I can stick the screwdriver right in here. See it? And then we'll fill that up with some super glue and let it dry. Carb cleaner is actually melting it. But I want to get the super glue in there, because I think that'll be the strongest for the deep penetration in there. All right, I'll be right back. See if I do this up. Gluing my fingers. Right there. Right there. Right there. Let's let that set for a while. I'm just happy it's nothing major. That's an easy fix. So that's done. So why don't we, let me see if I have engine oil for this. Let me see if it says what type. Why don't they put what type of oil you use on equipment? It just says change oil every 100 hours. At least every 100 hours. I guarantee you this doesn't even have 100 hours on it. But we gotta waste time waiting for that. So let me do a little research. Let me see what I could find out about this. Odds are it's 1030 oil. That's what most things are. So we'll see. And then I have this so I can always measure, you know, how much oil we're taking in and out of there. All right, guys, I did a little research, and the Champion takes 1030 oil, 400 milliliters, or 0.4 of a liter. So this syringe goes all up to 500 milliliters. So I made a mark. It's all cleaned out, but suck out the old oil. But the problem is it takes 1030, and I used up all my 1030 oil already. So I have to run to the store and buy a gallon of 1030. That way I have it. So I will continue this video as soon as I get the oil. That's going to give this plenty of time to dry. We hope. Oh, it's already dry. But let's let it dry a little longer. And I'll pick it up from that point on. So 1030 oil, 400 milliliters, or 0.4 of a liter. So I'll be back. All right, guys, I'm back. I got the O'Reilly 1030 full synthetic. That's gonna be enough to do a couple engines. So what I have to do is take the drain plug out. So I got the old oil. I got my old oil gas can here. You always gotta make sure you mark them. So you don't put it in something else by accident. Got about 3/4 of it out. So I'm gonna wait to get the air out. I wanna keep a measurement of how much I'm getting. So that's 400. So I'm only 1.5 inches away. So you know what? I'm gonna dump this. Yeah, that's all we're getting. Now I looked up the owner's manual, and the owner's manual said 400.4 liters. So that's 400 milliliters. So that's what we're gonna do. Slow and steady. Last thing you want is this to blow off and then it shoots all over the place. And it's going to be pretty much the same thing with any small engine, most small engines. Once you see it right there, that's when you know you have enough. I don't want to make too much of a mess in there. And it's right there. So, oil change is done. Let's try this. All right, let's try it. Engine on, eco on, fuel on, choke on. Let's give it a little bit of time for that fuel. Open this up. Open the fuel cap up. Give it a little time for that fuel to get down there. Let's get some of that engine oil moving. Started right up, nice and quiet. No fuel leaks, don't see anything. Oil's changed. Put it on eco. Look at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one outside and let it idle outside for a while. This is the one that wouldn't start at all. So I'm going to take this outside, let it run for, like 10 minutes, get the oil moving in there, get the parts moving again. And then I'll drain the fuel out of the carburetor. And I have to drain the fuel out of the carburetor either by running it dry or by opening up this screw that's on the bottom of the carburetor that goes to this hose. More than likely, this is what I'm going to do. I already have the cover off, so it's not a problem. But what I'm going to do next, I'm going to do the oil change on the other one. And the other one starts, so there's no need to go crazy into it. So I'm going to do that. Let me bring this outside, and then I'll get it warming up out there. So I wrote on this one the oil, the amount, 400 milliliters, and today's date on a little oil change sticker. I can do an oil change sticker on this one here. Okay. All right, guys, as you would have it, I had the camera button in my pocket, and when I went and carried out this one, I didn't realize I bumped the button and the camera stopped recording. So I'm not gonna undo everything just to show you how to drain the carburetor. But we changed the oil in both of them, and we also fixed the valve. Actually, I think it was number one. We fixed the valve in here. It was broken, so we just super glued it back together, waited a couple hours, changed the oil, learned how the carburetor works, and learned that we have to take the whole thing apart to get the carburetor off. It's not as easy as the Honda that's up on the shelf that I'm going to be doing the oil change on next. So, but what's good about these two are you could stack them like this, and then there's a component that goes in between, and it pairs them. And basically it takes 120 volts from here and 120 volts from here, combines them and gives you a 240 volt outlet for like a camper, or if you have to power your house and you only have a 240 outlet to power it through. So that's what's nice about it. I drained the gas out the carburetor by just undoing that screw that's on the bottom of the bowl, and it came out that little weep hole out the little tank, and at the little aquarium air hose basically. But these are a lot cheaper than the Honda. Here, let me show you the Honda. All right. One of these is basically equivalent to the Honda 2200. This one's a lot more expensive than these. They're about the same weight. There's a lot of bulk in here with all this extra plastic, and they're not friendly to maintain, as you saw trying to get in there. But what's nice is you could double stack them, triple stack them, however many you have. So that's one good thing about these. And they're sturdy, they're not going to tip over. These a little bit more, or a lot more portable, I would call it. These still have the suitcase handle, but it's a lot heavier. That's why I hit the button in my pocket. This, I already have the side cover off. Here on the Honda, everything comes out the side. So I take these two bolts off, I take the air box off and the air filter, and then this carburetor slides right out. On another one of my videos, I actually took the carburetor off and cleaned the carburetor, and actually fixed the electronic throttle control on this. So this one's done, but what I am going to do is I'm going to change oil on this one. That's why I have it off. I haven't changed the oil in it yet. But that's the comparison between the Honda 2200 and the 2000 watts over here. These are made by Champion. I do believe they have yellow ones and red ones. I'm not sure what the difference is. But anyways, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos. Sorry about missing me draining the fuel, but it's just unscrewing taking the back cover off and draining that fuel out there. This one you could actually run dry because the ignition switch is separate from the fuel shut off. So you could just turn the fuel off and just let the engine run dry. You could do it that way also. This one, you cannot do that. This one, the fuel switch and this are all on one. Right here. It's all on one thing. So this part is your ignition, and that is your fuel shut off right here. So if I turn this to on, it's gonna turn on the fuel and turn on the ignition. To shut it off, it shuts off the fuel and then it shuts off the ignition. So you can run this dry just by putting it all the way down here and not all the way to the off. So just a little comparison, but see, this is a lot easier to carry. All right, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. See you on the next video. Check out some of the other, some of my other videos. Everything from landscaping, wood splitting, working on truck, working on the car, the Corvette. I think I have 20 something videos on the Corvette already. So, all right, enough jibber jabber. See you on the next one.